You know those people who walk into your life like they've mistaken your personal space for a suggestion? Yeah, that kind. The ones who think the rules don't apply to them because they once got a coupon for 10% off at Bed Bath & Beyond and now think they've seen the world. That was Karen, and not in the meme sense. No, this wasn't a caricature. This was a living, breathing, aggressively perfumed monument to entitlement. A 50-something with the energy of a wasp stuck in a soda can, loud, pointless, and entirely unaware that it's not welcome. She moved in 2 months ago, right next door. I should have known the universe was playing a sick joke when I saw the U-Haul truck parked halfway into my driveway like it was a public sidewalk. No knock. No, hey, sorry about that. Just orange cones, folding chairs, and a teenage kid vaping like he was trying to summon a demon through his lungs. It started with the hedge. Excuse me, she called out one afternoon, arms folded over a neon pink tracksuit. Your hedge is growing 3 inches over onto my property. I measured. I was trimming it at the time. Wow, I said, without looking up. Did you use a ruler or just eyeball it through your binoculars? She didn't laugh. Karen never laughed, unless it was at her own jokes, which were usually about how bad customer service is these days. 3 weeks later, I caught her watering my front lawn. That's right, my grass. With her hose, standing on my soil like she paid taxes on it. Her explanation? I just thought it looked dry. You're welcome. No thanks. I like my grass thirsty, unlike my neighbors. I told her, politely, to stay on her side of the property line. She rolled her eyes and muttered something about community spirit and how the last neighborhood she lived in had monthly brunches. I smiled, went inside, and added her to the mental list I keep. People I will ruin if they keep pushing. She was in good company. But the real spark? It came one Saturday morning. I was sipping my coffee on the porch, enjoying the rare peace that only comes when both your phone and your conscience are on silent. That's when I saw her, not Karen, her grandson, digging up the edge of my garden bed with a plastic shovel. I watched as he flung a hosta plant across the yard like a botanical sacrifice. Behind him, Karen was standing, arms crossed, sipping a Vinnie Starbucks drink like she was watching live entertainment. I walked over. Hey, you might want to reel him in, I said, nodding at the toddler tornado. He's tearing up my soil. She didn't even blink. Oh, he's just playing, she chirped. They're just plants. Relax. It took everything in me not to respond with. And you're just a Karen, but here we are. Instead, I said, cool. So if I rip up your mailbox for fun, we're square. Her eyes narrowed. I think she thought I was joking. I wasn't. The next day was the breaking point. I come home from work, long day, 3 meetings, 1 migraine, and find a pair of deck chairs on my front lawn. Her deck chairs. Karen and her bingo friend, Sandra or maybe Brenda or whatever 1950s name she had, just sitting there with iced tea like it was their goddamn beach house. They had even brought a Bluetooth speaker. Kenny G. I'm not making this up. I pulled up, parked in the driveway, got out, and stared. Karen had the audacity to wave. Wave. You don't mind, right? She called. It's such a nice spot. Great shade. I didn't answer. I walked past them, into the house, poured myself a whiskey, and came back out. Ladies, I said, sipping. You've got 5 minutes to pack up your little senior citizens day camp and get off my lawn. Or I'll be the one calling someone. Karen scoffed. Don't be so dramatic, she said. We're neighbors. It's just grass. Wrong answer. I walked back inside, opened my property survey, because yes, I keep receipts, and waited. 5 minutes. On the dot. Then I walked out again. I'm not being dramatic, I said, unfolding the survey on my car hood like it was a war map. I'm being exact. Your chairs? A full 8 feet onto my property. You? Trespassing. That's when she did it. She pulled out her phone, sparkly pink case, of course, and dialed. 911. What's your emergency? I heard faintly. Karen, standing on my lawn, pointed at me and said, yes, I'm being threatened by a man on my neighbor's property. She was dead serious. She thought she was clever. She had no idea what was coming next. I stood there, drink in hand, watching her pace across my lawn like she was reporting a robbery in progress. The 911 dispatcher must have been just as confused as I was amused. Karen's voice had climbed into that octave where glass starts to tremble and dogs question their life choices. Yes, she repeated into the phone, he's threatening me. He's standing there with alcohol and waving papers in my face. Wow. A whiskey tumbler and a property survey, truly weapons of mass destruction. Sandra, or Brenda, or whoever, looked uncomfortable now. She tugged Karen's sleeve and whispered something, probably along the lines of, "This is a really bad idea, Karen." But Karen was past reason. She had tasted the power of dialing 3 numbers, and now she was riding the high like a suburban dictator with a Bluetooth headset. Meanwhile, I calmly leaned on the hood of my car and took another sip. See, here's the thing Karen didn't know, and it's the kind of thing people like her never bother to find out. My cousin, Sergeant, local PD, my ex, dispatcher, still on friendly terms. The cop who patrols our neighborhood every afternoon, Officer Grayson, guy I once helped move his kid into college when his back went out. In other words, she was about to play checkers on my chessboard. The cruiser pulled up exactly 6 minutes later. Blue lights flashing, radio humming, door swings open, and out steps Officer Grayson, sunglasses on, coffee in hand, and that familiar look on his face that said somebody's about to waste my time. Karen, of course, beelined toward him. "Oh, thank God you're here. He's been threatening us," she said, gesturing wildly toward me like I was wielding a flamethrower. Grayson looked past her, spotted me, and smirked. "Afternoon," he said casually. "Hey, Mike," I replied. "Nice to see you." Karen blinked. "You know him?" Grayson raised a brow. "Ma'am, this man lives here." "What exactly is the problem?" "He told us to get off the lawn," she said, as if that sentence was supposed to carry the weight of a federal crime. "And is this your lawn?" Karen froze. I couldn't help myself. I stepped forward and slid the property survey across the hood of my car like I was delivering a subpoena. "Official survey," I said, tone flat. "Stamped and certified. This line here? That's the legal boundary." Her chairs and her entitled aura are a full 8 feet into my space. Grayson looked it over. Nodded. "Yup," he said. "Checks out." Karen's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, like she was buffering. But we were just sitting. He was aggressive. Now, I don't know what version of aggressive includes a guy sipping whiskey and quoting municipal property codes, but Karen was clearly playing a different game. Grayson turned to her. "Ma'am, you're trespassing. And falsely reporting a threat? That's a separate issue." That got her attention. She immediately launched into a backpedal that would have made an Olympic gymnast proud. "I didn't mean that. I was just scared." He was waving papers. It felt hostile. "Hostile? Lady, I was wearing slippers." Grayson took a breath and stepped forward. His voice lowered into that authoritative, no-nonsense tone that cops use when they're deciding between a citation and a very long lecture. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. "You're going to pick up your chairs, apologize for wasting emergency resources, and stay on your side of the line. Or we can escalate this. Your choice." You could see the Karen in her wrestling with the reality. And then, the magic words. "This isn't over," she hissed at me, scooping up her chair like it owed her money. I smiled. "Oh, Karen, I was just starting to enjoy myself. Now, here's where a normal person might have let it go. But I'm not normal. And Karen? She just called the cops on me over a lawn. So no, this wasn't over. She wanted to escalate. Fine. But I don't yell. I don't argue. I plan." That night, I opened a folder on my desktop labeled Operation HOA. Because if Karen loved rules so much, she was about to choke on them. Let me explain something about our neighborhood. It's not gated, but it is ruled by one thing, the HOA, Homeowners Association. That all-seeing, all-finding body of suburban justice that hands out warnings for lawn gnomes and sends passive-aggressive letters about trash cans being visible from the street. Most folks here tolerate the HOA like they tolerate dental work. Annoying, but necessary. Me? I made it work for me. See, I don't just live here. I participate. I pay dues early. I volunteer at cleanup days. I even once helped organize a Halloween event for the neighborhood kids. Not because I care about community spirit. Let's not get sentimental, but because I've always believed in one thing. Power is boring unless you know how to use it. So when Karen made it personal, I knew exactly where to strike back. The HOA rulebook. 84 pages of suburban micromanagement, and Karen, bless her manicured soul, violated dozens of them. And I had receipts. Step 1 was observation. For the next 2 weeks, I became the world's calmest, most strategic stalker. Every violation Karen made, I documented. Like a suburban David Attenborough, I observed the Karen in her natural habitat. Her dog? Off-leash, 3 times a day. Her garbage bins? Left out past the 7 a.m. deadline every Monday. Noise violations? At least 4, including that one Wednesday karaoke session featuring Bon Jovi at 11:23 p.m. Yes, I timestamped it. Unauthorized exterior paint job? Check. Satellite dish on the front side of the house? Double check. Each infraction was logged, dated, and backed up with high-res photos. I made a dossier. A real one. Tabs, highlights, and a cover page labeled, "Concerning Ms. Karen, ongoing violations and disturbances." Petty? Absolutely. Necessary? You bet your HOA fees it was. Step 2 was delivery. At the next HOA meeting, the kind no one attends unless they're bored, retired, or me, I arrived early, dossier in hand, smile firmly in place. Karen wasn't there. Of course not. She was too busy leaving passive-aggressive notes on neighbors' mailboxes about leaf blowers. But the board? They were all ears. I didn't even need to dramatize it. I just handed over the file and said, "I have some concerns about a new resident. I thought it best to bring them here rather than escalate." That last word, escalate. Oh, they love that. Nothing an HOA hates more than someone threatening legal escalation. It's like saying IRS audit at a business brunch. The president flipped through the binder, nodding slowly. "Wow, that's a lot." "Yes," I replied. And I didn't even include the time she called 911 on me for sitting on my own property. Figured that was more of a personal highlight. There were polite chuckles. I didn't smile. Step 3, let the letters fly. 2 days later, Karen got her first official HOA warning. Then another, and another, each one more serious than the last. Failure to comply within 14 days? Fines. Continued violations? Possible legal action. You'd think she'd learn. But no. Karen's strategy was to march into the HOA office and throw a tantrum. She stormed in demanding to know who reported her. The HOA president, a retired attorney named Linda who wears brooches like their body armor, simply raised one eyebrow and said, "Multiple neighbors have expressed concerns." Which wasn't a lie, because after I talked to the Thompsons across the street and the Parkers 2 houses down, they each had their own Karen stories. Turns out, she'd been busy since day one, complaining about kids riding bikes, asking people to move parked cars for curb appeal, and one time yelling at someone's landscaper for using a gas-powered trimmer. She didn't realize the whole street was sick of her, but I did. Then came the coup de grace. A certified letter. HOA final notice. Violations unresolved. Fines exceeding $1,200. Failure to pay within 30 days would lead to a lien against her property. I saw her retrieve the letter from her mailbox. She stood there, stunned, flipping pages like they were written in a language she couldn't quite read. Her lips moved. She reread them. And then, my favorite part, she looked over at my house. I was watering my grass. I waved. She didn't wave back. She went inside and slammed the door so hard a bird flew out of her gutter. Now, some people might have ended it there. Let the fines bleed her dry. Let the board squeeze her. But Karen wasn't just a rule breaker. She was a problem. And problems? I don't let them linger. I had one last play. Because I knew something she didn't. Karen hadn't bought the house. She was renting from an out-of-state owner who used a lazy property manager that never checked in. But the HOA? They have rules about rental properties, including a lovely clause that allows them to report tenants who violate community standards. So I called the owner. Friendly. Cordial. "Hey," I said, "I'm one of your tenants' neighbors. Thought you should know there are some issues. HOA's involved. Just didn't want you to be blindsided." I emailed him the report, the photos, the citations, even a link to the HOA bylaws with the violations highlighted. The guy called me that night. Yeah, no, I don't want the headache, he said. Lease is month to month. I'll give her notice. And just like that, the countdown began. The owner didn't waste time. Karen got her termination notice hand-delivered within 48 hours, 30 days to vacate. No discussion, no appeal, just a polite, please be gone before the HOA fines become a lien and your mouth turns into a lawsuit. I imagine reading that letter must have felt like someone spitting in her soy latte. For the first time since she moved in, Karen was quiet. No unsolicited gardening. No dog roaming the neighborhood like a furry ambassador of chaos. No lawn chair invasions. Just the occasional glimpse through her window, blinds fluttering like she was running a surveillance op from behind her sofa. And me? I didn't gloat. Not in the obvious way. I just went about my life. Peacefully, like a man who knew the ending of the movie before everyone else. The rest of the neighbors started whispering. Questions circulated like breeze through the trees. Is she really leaving? Did someone finally report her? Was it you? I always answered the same way. Calm, half a shrug, mild sarcasm. I'm just focused on watering my grass. You know, my own grass. But here's where it gets even better. You'd think she'd pack up and go quietly, maybe start fresh somewhere else, a new town, a new lawn to trespass on. Nope. Karen threw a goodbye party. On her last weekend. On her front lawn. It was like watching a ship sink while blasting ABBA and serving Costco mini quiches. Fold-out tables, string lights, and of course, Kenny G again. She invited everyone. Well, everyone except me, which was adorable. I still showed up. Not to attend, mind you. Just out front, washing my car. Coincidentally. While her 15 or so guests, mostly other Karens and a handful of confused husbands, milled around on a property she'd been legally removed from. Then, as if summoned by the gods of irony, who rolls down the street but Officer Grayson, routine patrol. He sees the scene, sees me, gives the nod. I walk up to his cruiser, towel still in hand. Hey Mike, I say, you might want to take a peek at her rental status. Last I heard, she doesn't live here anymore. His eyebrow goes up. Really? Really? And so begins Karen's final meltdown. Grayson approaches, casually, asks to speak with her. She's mid-margarita, fake laughing at some story about how a barista once didn't get her name right on the cup. He informs her the property owner has terminated the lease. That technically, she's not supposed to be hosting events here anymore. That a call was made regarding trespassing and disruption. Karen goes full DEFCON 1. This is harassment. She points, again at me. He's behind this. He's been obsessed with me since I moved in. The party falls silent. Her guests start shifting uncomfortably, realizing this isn't the classy farewell wine tasting they signed up for. It's now an incident. Grayson stays calm. Ma'am, please lower your voice. This isn't about him. This is about your lease being terminated and HOA complaints. Karen scoffs. Oh, please. These HOA people are just bitter little tyrants. This whole neighborhood's a joke. Now she's yelling. Everyone's watching. And here's where I delivered the final blow. I walked to the edge of my lawn, just far enough for her guests to hear, and said, loud and clear, you know what the difference is between me and you, Karen? She whirled around, nostrils flaring. I smiled. I read the rules before I moved in. There were snorts. Actual snorts. From her guests. One woman muttered, Jesus, Karen, and started gathering her purse. Karen stood frozen, caught between a margarita and a nervous breakdown. Officer Grayson gave her a final warning. You can either wrap this up peacefully or I can file an incident report. Your call. Karen finally cracked. She stomped back inside her rented house like a toddler who just got grounded. A few minutes later, the music shut off. The lights came down, and the party dispersed like ants after someone sprays the hose. But wait, one last twist. Because I'm nothing if not thorough. The property owner, after all this, asked me if I wanted to buy the house. It was a steal. The HOA violations had tanked its curb appeal. No one wanted to touch it. So I did. Closed within 3 weeks. Did a full remodel. New paint, new landscape. Rented it to a quiet young couple who planted a vegetable garden and wave every morning. Sometimes I stand at the fence with my coffee and look over at that patch of lawn. The one where Karen once planted her chair and called the cops on me. Now it's just peaceful. Exactly how it should be. You'd think after she was evicted, publicly embarrassed, fined by the HOA, and replaced by actual human beings with manners, Karen would just fade into the background. Become one of those cautionary tales whispered about during block parties. Remember that one woman? The one who tried to colonize someone else's lawn. But no, entitlement, much like mold, doesn't die when you scrub the surface. It lingers, hides in cracks, waits for moisture. A week after she moved out, my mailbox was smashed in. Just mine. Not the Thompsons. Not the Parkers. Not even the HOA presidents, who had made her life legally miserable. No, just mine. It wasn't subtle either, cinder block level destruction. I found one of her dog's pink chew toys next to it, like a signature. Like she wanted me to know. I didn't report it. Didn't fix it right away either. I let the broken post sit there for 3 days. Let the neighbors walk past it and ask questions. Oh no, I'd say deadpan. Guess that mailbox really threatened someone. Then I replaced it with a reinforced steel one, bolted into a concrete base. An overreaction? Maybe. But overkill's a myth when you're dealing with people like Karen. A month passed. The new tenants thrived. Their garden bloomed. They invited me over for homemade zucchini bread and talked about adding a koi pond. Peace returned to the block. And Karen? Just a ghost. Until one afternoon I got a call from Officer Grayson. Hey, he said, tone casual. You'll appreciate this. Turns out, Karen had tried to rent in the next neighborhood over. New place, new HOA. But news travels. She had listed her last address, and someone on their board used to live on ours. Within 24 hours, she was flagged, background checked, and her rental application was lost in the system. Rejected. Poetic. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came when Grayson said, she's trying to sue the HOA. Claims harassment. Cited your name directly. Oh, Karen. Now that was interesting. See, I don't like being dragged into drama, but I do like courtrooms. Controlled environments. Rules. Evidence. Consequences. I told Grayson to keep me posted. I gathered every document I had. Photos. Emails. The call log from 911. Even printed a transcript of that HOA meeting where I presented the dossier. Let's just say, if this went to court, I was going to show up with a binder so thick it needed its own parking space. But then it fizzled. Karen didn't file. Whether it was the lawyer's fees, the total lack of a case, or the reality finally hitting her like a Starbucks window not labeled push, she dropped it. I heard through Linda, the HOA president, that Karen had moved out of town. Something about toxic neighbors and ungrateful communities. She never took responsibility, never apologized, just packed up her chaos and hit the road, probably headed somewhere with less accountability and more soft targets. The neighborhood relaxed, but her legend lived on. There's a punchline, though. A year later, I was walking back from the local farmer's market, bag of peaches in hand, when a new couple waved me down. They were moving into a house 2 streets over. Had heard the stories. Wanted to meet the guy who took down Karen. I laughed. No takedown, I said. She just hit the wrong lawn. We chatted. They were nice. The kind of people who bring actual thank you cards instead of passive-aggressive complaint letters. Before I left, the wife said something that stuck with me. You know, in a way, it's kind of impressive. What is? That she thought she could win. That kind of delusion takes effort. She wasn't wrong. Here's the truth about people like Karen. They don't change. They just move. They leave behind scorched earth, broken mailboxes, and HOA citations like breadcrumbs. Then act shocked when someone finally follows the trail and drops the hammer. But me? I don't raise my voice. I don't throw tantrums. I don't dial 911 for someone sitting on their own porch. I read the rules. I play the long game. And when it's over, I sip my coffee, stare at my perfectly trimmed hedge, and wait. Because sooner or later, another Karen always shows up. But now the lawn fights back. Thank you for being with us. Please share in the comments where you are watching from and whether you liked everything, and see you next time.